So today's topic is now is not a moment in time. And the topic is not just related to time, I think, but mainly to this now, which are two different things, and we'll come to that. Because usually, and I think, usually in those talks or in the discussions, what we do is the most important thing for me is not so much to talk about the matter, but what effect it has on us, on our daily lives, right? I think that's what matters most. So it's not just a pure philosophical discussion or a theory or about opinions, but I think it's mainly what effect it has and what felt effect it has. How does it make us feel? Does it make us feel better? Does it make us feel worse? And it's also a lot about applying it in our daily lives, if we can actually say that. So now is not a moment in time means, let's say, usually the understanding of time that we usually have is, we could say that there's like a timeline. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a timeline. You can, it's fine. Just imagine a straight line.
I can.
You can, okay.
Everyone should.
Okay. So usually we think here's the past, here's sort of the now, and here's the future, right? And I'm saying this is not like that, because like if you look at it, and I think usually we think there's this now, this now is where it gets very interesting, because now if we try to catch the now with our thoughts, it's not possible, because when I think as now, it's already gone this moment. So we usually think the now is something that moves in that direction. We don't know exactly how long that takes. One of the now, scientists haven't tried to figure out how long the now takes, right? And we don't know how fast it moves, right? That's sort of I think someone is coming. That's sort of it's fine, it's open. It's sort of a mystery to us, right? Because it's mainly because our mind cannot comprehend it. And I do one more thing, which I find very interesting. There's this book called, I think The Meaning of the Cross. So it's not related to religion in any way, but it's the meaning of the cross. And it talks about, I think the church probably took that symbol because it has the universal meaning, right? But we're not talking about churches or religions here. But so imagine it's a cross, without the arrows maybe, but you have one vertical and one horizontal axis, and basically what we usually have is here this timeline, so past, now and future, and we're not talking about this here today, but we're talking about this one, which is the vertical. And the vertical is that now, like as I said, the title, now, now is not a moment in time, because we're talking about this and not about here, so it's not a point somewhere here. And that's, I think, the main distinction. And what does it mean? Because it's very abstract, right? So it means that our thought system is basically working it can only work on the past, present and future, but the present is not really a present. And why is that? Because thoughts only work like that. So it's like a streamline. And basically, since we are focused on thoughts like most of the day, and we identify with them even, we think we live in the past, future, and the now. But however, if you really look at it at a time, for instance, time is man-made. It's a construct of the mind, because, as I said, it feels real to us because we think in the mind. So for instance, like if you think about time, like what we have is time measurements, right? The clock is a time measurement. There was a time when there were no clocks, and people that used to measure time, they counted the days, or like the sun goes up, sun goes down, right? Sort of daytime, nighttime, and so on and so on. So basically, we usually think time is a realistic thing because, as I said, because we're so identified with thoughts, for which thoughts are only existing in that realm. Thoughts can only exist here, they cannot exist here. For instance, when you say, you can read many books, I talked it a few times, there's books about how to get really in the moment, how to get more in the moment. We think we should be more in the moment, we meditate, we do yoga, we do all kind of exercises to get more in the moment, never questioning whether we actually have ever been out of the moment. So I think that's for me that has been a very striking thought, because we can only try to get in the moment, we can only try to calm our minds when we think we are our minds, when we identify with it, when we identify with not being in the moment. Like, somebody can only sell you this book, How to Get in the Moment, or I should be more in the moment, when you are convinced that you are out of the moment. But I'm telling you, and you don't have to believe it, but from my experience, and I think it's your experience as well, you can never be out of the moment. It's impossible. It's like the same as, have you ever tried to, like, people try also say we should increase our consciousness, or we should be more conscious. But if you really think about it, if you really observe, let's say, if you observe your consciousness, and it's not some elite consciousness that only a few of the highest priests or gurus or whatever can reach, it's like your ordinary consciousness that you're using right now, using to be here and be aware of what's happening here. So it's like a very ordinary awareness, a very ordinary consciousness. So if so what you're using now, this consciousness, this awareness, have you ever been like, have you ever switched it off? Are you able to switch that off? No, it's always on. Or you can also not have more of it, because everything happens within this consciousness. This talk right now, the words coming out, that you're sitting here, like, you can be aware that you're sitting here, right? And yeah, basically this body is sitting here and you can be aware. So you cannot switch it off. You cannot practice it. You cannot sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to be more conscious. I'm going to see more this chair there, and so on. So it seems a ridiculous idea, but the thing is, we try, as this body, especially in spirituality, we try to become consciousness, or more conscious, or try to be in the now more, by doing those things. We say, oh yeah, I have to increase my consciousness, and we do efforts, and we do 2 hours of meditation every day, we do this and that, or we try to calm our thoughts and this and that. But there's no need, if we realize, and that's the thing, if we notice, or if we realize that we can never be out of the moment, and we can never not be not here, or we can never not be conscious, then we understand all of this is just, a game, that we play. It's like the sentence, I say, we try to get out of something that we were never in, and we try to get in something that we can never be out. I love that sentence, because it means the following. What we usually do every day, I think all of us, in one way or the other, is we try to get out of something that we can never be in. What does that mean? It means, like, we're so, like, let's say, I used it a few times, let's say this expression selfing or self, or maybe you can even say ego. So, like, we usually say, I am in this, I identify with this body and this mind, and I think I'm a separate entity, like called Benjamin, and I'm going through life, and when I think about my past, it was like this, I think about the future, I experience great things, I experience not so great things, but just identifying with this, makes me feel very narrow, and I approach life and I hate this, I like this, and it's an effort, it's a struggle, that's how I perceive it. You have good moments, you have bad moments, but usually the bad moments, they are much longer than the good ones, and so on, right? So when we identify with this self, we are sort of stuck in this, almost vicious cycle. But the thing is, it can only be seemingly so. We can never be actually stuck in that. And that's a very important thing, because usually, as I said, we assume that we have to do something, and like I said, we try to get out of something that we were never in. So when I say that, it means, like, and how do we do that? We try it through, some of us, we try to do a great career. So we always have this carrot in front of us saying, I want to get out of this meeting, out of this moment, I want to have a better girlfriend, I want to have a bigger house. Once I've been to Peru, the life will be much better. Or, it could be anything, right? Or once I have, there's so many things, we all know it, we do it every day. That's sort of the nature of our minds. So to understand, like, the solution to this is not, to take more drugs, to buy more iPhones, or to go on more vacations, or do more and more and more of this, because it has shown us, that nothing works. There will always be, we always want more and more and more. It's never enough. So as I said, it could be anything and whatever. And then, so the solution doesn't come from trying more and harder, like you would say, you do 2 hours of meditation, and then it still wouldn't come what you're looking for, and then you tell yourself in a way, well, I should have meditated 3 hours, or I should have gone to this retreat, or I should have gone to this teacher, so it's never enough, it never works. So at some point, I think we come to understand, okay, maybe that's not working. So the solution is not to do more of this, but to understand that we have never been in what we're trying to get out of. And on the other hand, we can never be out of something that we're in. So meaning the moment, what I gave as an example. So as I said, if we buy into that we are like, stuck in this body, we're only this body, we're like the thought process, and basically the now is something like, that's far away, only big gurus and only the elite has reached. We always put a gap between what we are and where we could be, but where we could be is not something real, or it's something imaginary, right? It's something that we put in our head. And I think most suffering that we have in the society, like each of us on different levels, right? I'm not saying we all like have a horrible life. I think we all, have great lives, and not maybe sometimes not so great lives, but it's on a more, subtle level where we can feel that struggle, that everyday struggle, and so on. But the thing is, as I said, not to try to get somewhere, but to understand that we are already there where we want to be. There's one sentence which I love, is, what's looking is what you're looking for. That tells you everything. Like, what's looking is what you're looking for. Meaning, so what's looking is exactly what's happening now. Right now there's a looking happening. We usually think there's the looker. I'm like this, I'm like this, the looker, and basically I have, like there's always something wrong with this looker if you take that what's perceived. Basically, your knee hurts, your back hurts, at some point this thing will die, and it's a struggle. Like when we identify with this, it's a struggle. As I said, I don't want to paint a negative picture because you can also have great moments and everything, but for me that's not good enough to have great moments and bad moments, as I said, and our mind usually prolongs the bad moments and makes the good moments shorter. Like how often is it possible, like we're reacting so much to what's not happening versus what's happening, meaning I can sit there on a Saturday morning and life is great at 9 o'clock, and at 9:03 life is horrible, just not because something happened, but because I think about next week what may happen, and what may happen will probably never happen. But this has it can have such a strong impact on us that it can ruin our day, and it has an effect on us, and that's what I'm questioning, and as I said, this thought process is something that goes on and on and on, but it's almost like let's say a radio station, that you can turn up and you listen to it non-stop. And I mentioned it also a few times, so imagine you're listening to the radio, and that's how it is, because we think it's our thoughts, right? So what's happening in this, it's our thoughts, it's about us. So imagine you're sitting in the radio, listening to not sitting in the radio, but sitting in the car, listening to the radio, and the radio program is always about you, constantly. What would you do? Or let's say, not always, but in this moment it's about you. You would be like, oh my God, what are they telling about me? Because everyone is listening, hopefully they won't say anything bad, so it's exhausting in a way, right? And then, the thoughts tell you this and that, and it's all about you. So that stresses you a lot. So that's what we do all day. All day we pretend that the thoughts come from us and are about us, and that's why we take them so seriously that they dictate how we feel during the day. It's like crazy, like it's really insane. If you really see it, it's insane. And so it's not about trying to calm the thoughts or trying to change them or try to think positive. I don't think it's about like this at all, because there will always be positive thoughts, there will always be negative thoughts. It depends also where we are. If we're in the city on Saturday, everybody's running around like crazy, it affects us automatically. It's like a group mind, sort of, you know. If you sit on Machu Picchu calmly, you will have good thoughts. Okay, great. But what I'm saying is, it's not about having what kind of thoughts, but understanding they're not about us or from us. And what happens then? You will lose complete interest in those thoughts. And what does it do? Your mind will be like, but come on, my life will be extremely boring. And no, it won't. Like you will feel, you know, some kind of peace that's always there. That's sort of the background. That's always been in the background. I think it's our nature. And that, I think, will shift more to the foreground, and those thoughts will shift back. But there will always be those thoughts, you know, but they won't have the ability to ruin your day anymore. And I think that's something, you know, that can completely change, you know, how we live in life. So anyway, so I'm going to show a short video from Rupert Spira. I think I told some of you about him. And the title, it's the same title, it's about the now. He will also explain a bit the concept of time, and it's like about 10 minutes, I think, and then we'll discuss a bit. I will talk a bit more, and then we will discuss. Okay, so yeah, he was describing, you know, similar things that I was saying. So as I said, you know, this doesn't matter at all, this whole discussion about time and now and everything, but as I said, the biggest thing is the effect it has on us on every day. And I think it's also very interesting, you know, to see what resistance comes when we hear this, especially, you know, if it's for the first time or the first few times, because usually the reaction of that thought system, you know, that's here on the horizontal is like, that's bullshit, but then I won't have fun in life anymore. But that's not how it is, because, you know, we have a lot of proof for it's actually not like this, you know, because, you know, the thing is, I think we find always proof for everything. For any theory that we have, we will always find proof for. That's sort of how our mind works. So if we are convinced, if we have a belief that time exists and there is a past and there's a future, and I can only have an exciting life when there is a past and a future and time exists, then we will find proof for that every day. When we think, when we're convinced and we believe that there is no such time, we will find proof for it. So it's not about, you know, I'm not here and suggesting that's the only way of thinking and that's how you should do it. Not at all. Like, I'm sitting here because I think, you know, that way of, I don't know, that perspective in a way has brought me a lot of peace in life and a lot of joy, a lot of love, you know, in general. So I'm sitting here to invite you, if you want, to entertain a possibility that it could be this, because, you know, it has brought relief in my life. And so I'm just suggesting maybe you want to entertain it, try it for yourself, maybe question the status quo, because so many times we're so occupied with so many beliefs or thoughts that we have about life that limit us in so many ways that we just sort of run against the wall constantly without even knowing it, because everybody else does it as well. So I think, you know, that's sort of the message that I have, is just to entertain this, to maybe imagine that maybe this could be true, and try it out for yourself and try on the shoe and see what effect this has on your life, you know. And I said at the beginning, you will observe many of your thoughts saying, no, this cannot be, and you will go back to your maybe old beliefs and old thinking, and you will find hundreds and thousands of reasons why this should not be like this. But as I said, like, I think it's not like, I think what helps me is not listening to those thoughts so much, but more listening to maybe your intuition, or not even intuition, to how it makes you feel when you experience, maybe you're like in the now, in this non-time moment, and how does it make you feel? Like, just imagine, for instance, all the moments, you know, when you didn't think about the future so much, or you didn't think about the past so much. Those are usually moments, maybe, I don't know, when you're under the shower, or when you're outside in nature, or you're doing something like sports or some activity, or you're lost in an activity that you enjoy a lot, you know. How do you feel in those moments? Do you feel horrible and worried about life, or do you feel at peace and there's nothing to worry about? And, you know, if we navigate through life according to how things make us really feel deep down, I think that's a great navigator, you know, at least for me. And then at some point, it was at least my experience, you come to understand that life can be completely different. It can be much lighter, and completely different, and in many ways. And then things may happen that you may never have dreamt of, But the more we rely on this thought system and the more we listen to it, the more, we experience it all, the more narrow life becomes. And as I said, you still have great moments, but we're sort of trying to convince ourselves, no, it's still going on, I can still do something. But at the end of the day, I think, the thought system is great when we use it as a tool, but when we become identified as it, then I think it can be also a struggle and a problem. So that's basically what I wanted to say today. So now we can just open for discussions, and if you have questions or comments, and we can just openly discuss.
I'm not sure if I really get it, the key message. I'm understanding what he's saying, and this comment he said in the video, what you also saying, I'm not getting what is the benefit for me, how does it help me in my life to have this thinking or to be aware of it?
So that's the thing, right? When we have those discussions, those are not discussions where, we give knowledge and then we try to understand it in our current context. It's like, the intent of this is actually, there's a saying, let's say, there's a saying, when you talk, let's say, you speak to the ego about your true nature. That's what many people do, right? They speak to the ego about the true nature, meaning you speak to someone, to somebody, and you talk about how great eternity is, right? That doesn't help much because you sort of have a separation. But then I think what we're doing here is the other way around. I think this is talking sort of to your true nature about yourself in a way, meaning it's out of any logic. On a horizontal level, it's out of any logic. That's why it's a good thing that you say I don't understand, because it's sort of in this I don't know, I don't understand, meaning it opens up the mind to maybe something new. On the other hand, so if I answer it from a different perspective, the benefit as such, look, I'm talking about something, look, there's also the sentence, the perceiver cannot be perceived. What does that mean? That's also a very strong sentence, because it means, so whatever we are able to perceive is not that which perceives. Meaning, we usually identify with this body, we identify with thoughts, we identify with many things, but that which perceives, which we really are, is not that which can be perceived. So it's something else, it's in a space, it's something else. So can it improve or can it benefit you in the way what you already are? No, because I think all of us, we are already complete in that way. Does it benefit what you think you are? Yes, in many ways. How? It can benefit it in, you will feel lighter, you will be more happy, you will have better relationships, you will, there's this example that I also have in my book, which is sort of the horses are in front of the cart, because usually I think we live our lives in a way where the horses are behind the cart, so they constantly run into the cart and we don't know what the problem is. So we see everyone doing it and we think that's normal, and then we measure our happiness on a level of comparing it to others. Everyone is sort of, everyone is sort of in the trouble or in a challenge, and we measure just my challenges are a bit less today. So what does it do? It makes our life easier. But it's not about this. I think is not about listening to this and then discussing it in your mind and say, no, this cannot be, or this is bullshit or not. But I said the only way is just to maybe entertain it and try it out for yourself and see. But it's a very, it may seem as a very abstract concept, but it's not a concept, It's, as I said, it's not something we have to learn, but it's our nature, and it's more like that maybe, if at all, we should unlearn things that we have thought so far, that limit us, like some kind of belief systems or conditionings that we have, you know. Like as I said, like when we hear a message a few times or many times, and when we soak in everything from our parents when we grow up, you know. Then we soak in stuff from school, from teachers. We soak in everything, and it becomes so strong that it becomes not just some thoughts we may entertain, but it becomes reality, like a seeming reality. It seems as if it was real. And so it's not about learning something new, but it's about just either seeing what's happening, or it's about unlearning, you know, what we have learned or what we have identified with so far. I don't know if that answers it in any way, but you know, like I tell you, for me example, so where should I start? I mean, I have read many books before that, but I'll give you one example. When I was 17, I think, I liked Alanis Morissette, you know, the singer, the Canadian singer. I liked her very much. I went to a few concerts, and she said once she read this book, Who Am I? By Sean Klein, and she said it changed her life, right? So I was like, because I liked her, I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to read it. And then that's sort of how I felt. I read the book, and I read the first page, and before I was always seeking for a solution. So I read psychology, philosophy, I never found the answer. Then I read this book, I had no idea, like I didn't understand any word, like I understood the words, but I didn't understand what this guy was saying. But I had a very strong intuition that there's a solution in there, what I have always looking for. You know, so that's how I felt. I couldn't grasp it, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. But there was something telling me, wow, I want to understand that, you know, so I kept reading it until I understood. But the funny thing is, for instance, you know, I read the sentence many times, like, you know, we are not our bodies. You know, that idea sounds completely insane. Why? Because we read it from our body. You know, the body reads it and says, I'm not my body. It's like, you know, this is crazy. But it's not about that. Like, it points towards something else, which I would call our true nature, and that sort of has a huge impact on our lives, you know. So as I said, and if it does, you know, like you're sitting here for some reason, you know. If you didn't care about this whole thing, you probably wouldn't be here. So yeah, why not just, you know, try to annotate it and see how it works? But but it's also good to discuss, I think, because as I said, it can be very far-fetched.
Yeah, to me, what resonated with me was this metaphor of like being on a constant stream on the line, right? And we're just moving along. And but to me, like the now or the present moment is important because it's a moment where our past is shaped, and also where our judgment is made. Which means if you are taking really focus on what's happening to be in the present moment, that means that you can actually take some of the things that are processed and shift it from the unconscious more to the conscious, which means that you have more control about how you think or what the things that you think mean in the future, if we still keep up with this concept. Because when I'm really in the here and now, and I'm really processing things consciously, then I have the power to make it like serve me well. Because if I'm not here and I just like are on autopilot mode, and I'm just, you know, just having too much stuff going on, and I cannot really focus, then this leaves the judgment to my unconscious, and this is where I don't have control. And it's not about having control, but it's about like not being or living a life where you decide on which side you are, right? On the side where you are, if you're happy or not. Because a lot of things that we have like learned in the past about like beliefs that other people planted into our mind, most of the stuff happened unconsciously, and it also happens now. It's not just our childhood, it's also like, I mean, we're bombarded with messages from media, from authorities, from friends, from family, and it's not like everyone is like, having like things that are good for us, right? So everyone's kind of like, as an individual, like, keeping himself kind of like in the on the good side, right? So to me, it's like a moment where I can really decide which information I let be processed and let go and direct my life, instead of like on autopilot mode and keep just the information in, and I'm not able to really know what they mean and what they do to me. So this is why I still feel an importance of like having that, like this moment. And if it's just like sliding alongside my lifetime, then it's okay, but I need the moment where I can be in the here and now. Yeah, this would be my idea on that.
I find it very helpful. I was really fascinated by this. I think there's quite a bit of logic in it, actually. And I was also thinking about the autopilot, and my question is, now one thing is knowing that we can only be, like, the now is happening all the time. I mean, or it's not existing, which is the same. And the other thing is the awareness, for me, the awareness of being alive now. Now meaning in every, having the awareness of being alive and having an experience. So I don't think there is a contradiction. But I think what we often have is that we are on autopilot and we don't have the experience of being alive.
So can I say something about that? That's a very interesting point. So like, that's exactly like, I think both of you are sort of going the same direction in a way. So what we're trying, like, this is what I said, the consciousness, the awareness, or the now, it's always happening. And as I said, I would phrase it in a way, we are always in the now. Like it may seem, and I think it may seem we may be out of the moment and it's better to be in the moment, but we're always in the now. And this thing, that you say with the awareness, I think, like, you said you would like to experience that, or that's sort of what we try to do. We try to make, that's the thing, something is always there, consciousness is always there, and we usually try to make an experience out of it, or we try to catch it in a way. We want to, it's almost like this, that we want to grasp it, we want to hold on to something. So, and that's sort of, I talk about this, in general, about sort of, we try to become the formless as the form. Like, let's say we are already what we are. Let's say we are, like, there's the awareness, but sometimes we try to become more aware, or we try to be fully aware, something like this, which I think for me it's like the awareness is there, and then there is something that comes on top of it, like another layer, that tries to sort of say, no, like as maybe the thought, or as a separate entity, we try to catch that. And I've seen it with myself, that actually this very act of trying to catch it is sort of taking us exactly out of what we already are, in a way, but only seemingly, because it's only a layer on top of it. So what I'm saying is, what you guys sort of describing is, you can do something to be more aware, or you can do something to be in the moment, and I have experienced that I have not been in the moment, but it's better when I'm in the moment. And I'm saying that this is also something we can observe, but I'm talking about the thing that we already are at all time. You see? So when we talk about this being more aware, or I want to experience it fully, or like, we say I had it but I lost it again, those kind of things, right? So it's not about that. It's a different realm, So it's about it's actually about not adding something, not trying with effort, but it's realizing that it has always been like this. You know, there's a very fine line, but for me that has been one of the, you know, biggest differences, to see that fine line, because we can get very, like, you know, the mind is very, very tricky, like extremely tricky. Like you know, it can, the nature of the mind is to claim. It's like, you know, we have an epiphany, like a great moment, the moment of bliss and peace, and then the mind comes in and says, wow, you know, now I'm enlightened, or like, you know, now I'm happy, you know, like, and then what we usually do is we try to recreate those moments, right? Like, you know, we try to, when we experience joy or peace, maybe, I don't know, in Hawaii, then we want to go back to Hawaii and say, well, I want to be back in Hawaii, but maybe next time you go to Hawaii, maybe you broke up with your boyfriend and then it won't be so great. So, but we usually think that there's events that make us happy, or we buy a product and it makes us happy, but then, you know, when really you look at it, it's not the event or the product that makes us happy, but the feeling of having arrived makes us happy, which is always there. So yeah, as I said, you know, I think it's a very interesting point that both of you say. But yeah, at the same time, I think it's important to understand that there's nothing, like in this, there's nothing to do. But on the level, you know, that we usually speak on this timeline, there's a lot to do, seemingly, you know. But what I think from my experience, there's nothing you need to do on top of it, but it's more like realizing what already is. And maybe, if we can put it that way, leaving away some stuff, you know, sort of that layer. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I think we are individuals. I mean, like we have different longings to experience something, or not. I mean, we have like, some people have dreams, have longings, have certain, love to listen to music, others love to eat. These are very sensual experiences. And that's the moment where they really feel like connected to, you know, a greater whatever, you know, or they are very just enjoying the food and using their senses, because I believe, and it really makes sense that we are having senses and we are having a body. There might be other concepts as well, but this is, the body is there to make its experiences. Even being born or dying or whatever, and living and enjoying, all these are experiences. And so where does that fit into it? I mean, it's just having experiences, not more and not less, and each of us have different experiences. So, you know, what you are suggesting is like, it is, there are so many like simple people out there who won't reflect on all this what we are talking about, but they were just experiencing.
We're the crazy ones.
Yes, and we wonder why are they so happy, you know, because actually everybody wants to be happy in the first place. So what is it? And what people notice when they're there is these people are really like they're just there in this moment, and they are somehow enjoying life, whatever. So. Without striving for something, also, but just they're just being. So where does it fit in?
So, you know, when you describe, like, you know, like, yeah, obviously, like, you know, I see the body as an instrument, like basically giving us, conscious contact with the world, right? Basically, that's what it does. So, you know, I was saying at the beginning. So I was saying, imagine it's like, you know, imagine a camera, yeah? So you take pictures with the camera. So the photographer, the guy taking the picture, is the one behind the camera, and the camera is used to take the picture. So what we usually do is that we take ourselves for the camera. But what's actually who we are in this analogy is we are the one taking the picture. So we're behind the camera. So what happens is, you know, like if you look at the body, so for instance, this is the body, right? We all have this body here. So, but this is used as a tool to enable the seeing, the hearing, you know, and that's a beautiful experience, as you say. It's beautiful to smell like fresh in the forest or see a beautiful ocean, like, you know, it's beautiful, it's amazing, right? So what happens is the seeing is taking place, and we think that, you know, that there's a seer in form of this body. So, but if you really look at what's happening, like for instance, you can take these eyes out and you replace it with another eye, and it still works, and it's still the same seeing. You can replace, I don't know what else, organs and stuff. Like you can replace different organs, and like the body is just there to facilitate the seeing, the hearing. Like, you know, the eyes don't see, the ears don't hear. They are just instruments to facilitate it. So in this example, like, and that's, I think, from my perspective, this is where most of the struggle comes from, that we take ourselves for the camera. You know, once the camera is broken, it doesn't deliver the pictures anymore, then it's over. But, you know, we're not the camera. So yeah, as I said, you know, I don't expect that this is very clear, but so yeah, that's basically what I see. So the body is there, we use it as an instrument, and it facilitates the seeing, the hearing, the smelling, and the tasting and the touching. And the problem comes in, when I think about it, the problem comes in when we identify with that instrument. Because, why? Because it's, you know, it has its limits, it will die at some point, it has many defects, you know. Yeah, but as I said, I don't expect you to believe that, or I don't expect you now to walk around and think, you know, this is not my body. I'm not a fan of that, you know. If you think that you're this body and that's your identity and you're the thoughts, then I think you should think that, you know. If you think that there's something like free will, I think you should think that, because, you know, this is not like a game or, you know, some theory, but I think it's something that, you know, that you really feel. And I think if you don't feel like this, that's good, because I also said as well, everybody's different as well, you know. So I don't have any agenda or propaganda, but I think for me it's just amazing to explore. When I hear ideas like this, and I hear somebody speak about, you know, an experience and it's different, you know, instead of listening to my mind saying, oh, but that's bullshit, that cannot be the case. For me, I like to be open and see where this comes from. Is it from a place where I can maybe trust, or if it's some you know, some honesty behind and something really, or is it something, you know, some guy trying to brag about something, you know. So I think, yeah, I'm not here to teach anything, you know. I'm just sharing my experience in a way, I think. And if you can resonate with it, then great, and if not, then it's also good, you know. But yeah, anyway, I love the discussion. I love, you know, when you guys come, and it's a beautiful, I think also beautiful energy in the room, you know. It's nice to reflect a bit more sometimes than what we usually do every day.
Even if for you say that the body is only a tool, but for me an experience, as she's saying, it's exactly something coming through the senses, you know. If the body is only a tool to that, it's egal actually. But for me the real experience is the senses and maybe feeling. And then I can understand what you say, that if the thoughts try to grasp it or come on top, anyway, they're always too slow, and they also will never be able to grasp it wholly. So maybe this being in the now, it's just experiencing for me the senses and the feelings without putting an idea on it immediately. Like, for example, for me, when we say not being in the now, is if I'm sitting in front of the ocean and, you know, I get senses and I suddenly think about something totally different, or my office computer or something. Then I'm not in the now. Maybe just being in this now is, as you say, not trying to think that I'm in the now and just experiencing it, but in the meaning of senses. And I don't know, feeling senses, how I connect these two, but something like that.
You know, the biggest difference in there is, or I don't know difference, but you know, like the nature of this self thing, or you know, I don't know, this body-mind structure or ego, whatever you want to call it, is to exactly do that. It's to claim experiences. So it's not good or bad, right? I think it's just interesting to observe for me is, you know, when this is in place, this, like, you know, the nature of this self thing, or this whatever, this body-mind construct, let's call it that, is to claim, is to grasp, is to try to hold on, you know, like as this, which is the nature of this. It's not bad or good. It's not we don't have to strive not to have it. It's a nature. That's what's happening. So meaning it grasps, like, you know, we experience something good, we want to hold on to this. We meet some great guy, we meet some great girl, we want to hold on to it. That's a natural reaction, and as I said, it's not good or it's not bad. I think that's how it is. What I'm questioning is whether, like, who we are in this whole scenario, and that for me has a big effect. Whether, from my experience, if I fully identify with this grasping and this holding on to, the effect it has on my life is I struggle, I have fear, I'm nervous, because it's a lot of holding on. It's my experience, you know, it may not be your experience. When I, on the other hand, have this, when I don't identify with the grasping, it's still happening, but then I have experienced that my life is much more light. I can, you know, I'm happy with whoever I'm surrounded with, you know. There's many differences. There's a lot of peace, there's a joy, a constant, you know, like in a way. And so that's sort of just the nature, right? So as I said, it's not a good thing or a bad thing, because that's just how it is. I think we cannot change it. I think what it helped me as well, you asked for a benefit, is, you know, when I fully identify with this grasping and this claiming, then I said I feel, I struggle, I feel like that. And when I identify, or when I'm not identifying with it, I feel much bigger peace, and everything is happening completely different, you know. And plus, what it was very important, because usually we think it's not, it allows me, when I understand I'm not this, what I usually think I am, I can actually experience life to my fullest. Why? Before not, because when I identify with this, I would always be worried, how do I look today? You know, did I wear nice clothes? Like, how do I speak today? You know, what does she or he think of me? Maybe, you know, I should shave next time. Like, you know, all those things which happens as very also naturally. When I identify with this fully, then of course, you know, I want to impress people, I want to speak in the proper way, and all those things. When this identification is not strong, or not there, then there's nothing to lose. And that's what I think makes the biggest difference. When, like, you know, we go through life, like usually we think, when I'm distant from this body, I will just sit in the Himalayas and just meditate and be happy. But it's actually the opposite. When I don't have a strong identification with this thing, I can jump in fully in life, I can be brave and meet people, and there's nothing to lose, you know. And this has one of the biggest effects on my life, you know. So, you know, so as I said, you know, you can sort of assess the tree by its fruits in a way, you know. You can see, it's not about whether we're the body or not, it's not about this, but it's about what fruits do you pluck, you know, from the tree when you live in a certain way. And I think that's what, at least for me, what counts, you know. But as I said, usually, you know, we think about what's right, what's wrong, and, you know, I think we're not our bodies, you know. Some of you may think you're your bodies, but it's not about that, you know. It's more about, it's about just seeing what it is and trying it out, and what effect it has on you, I think, at the end of the day.
And we can be our body, in our bodies, and still be more than the body. I mean, it's not a contradiction.
Yeah.
I feel like
There's also
I was just thinking of the Zen teacher. I don't know if this story is real, but about who just stepped on the foot of his, you know, scholar, you know, just coming to wake up, you know, like. I mean, just to be in the moment because he was somewhere else. So, I mean, there's so many ways of being, like, experiencing presence or something. So it can be.
Yeah. I think I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan. You know, whatever works for you works for you. Whatever resonates with you, it's great.
Don't step on my foot.
So yeah, you wanted to say something?
I think you won't.
Yeah.
Usually we are often trained to feel incomplete in a certain way from our society, but I think as soon as we start feeling really conscious about who we are and being fully aware of being in the now and feeling complete, everything else comes into addition to our life. So we are no longer focused on being incomplete and having to reach different goals in order to feel better, but being aware that we are already complete and everything else on our journey through life will be kind of additional present. And I think being in the now is a big way of feeling conscious about that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, also for me, it was one of the biggest pointers that helped me a lot, was exactly that, because you know, there's this whole thing of people sort of, or us imagining that we are here and at some point it would be great to be there, like, you know, I don't know, yeah, like, you know, at some point there will be the big relief, you know, at some point maybe some guy comes and he saves the world, or like maybe in our life something happens. So that, like, in this theory, in a way, we're here and we have to get there. So in order to get from here to there, we have to do many things. Either we have to be disciplined, or we have to meditate, or we should go to retreats. Or there's always something we have to do. But as you said, Ram, like when I heard it for the first time from someone, I was like, wow, exactly. And that changed also very different, because when you assume you are already there, yeah, and then you don't have, the difference is you don't have to do anything to get where you already are. And then it doesn't mean that everything you do as a body mind is perfect and great, but it brings a big relief and a big peace in you that fundamentally you don't have to go anywhere because you have already arrived. You know what I said earlier, what's looking is what you're looking for. So, you know, this sentence in this example would be, what you're looking for is what you have to achieve. And that means a lot of effort and struggle. But what I was just saying is, what's looking is what you're looking for. That means you start here and you end here. You know, all this other stuff that maybe you want to learn another language, maybe you want to get married, maybe you want to buy a big house or whatever, it's still, you're still going to be there, you know. So it's fun, like on the surface you may try to achieve something, but it's not a big deal. Like yeah, if you want to go on vacation, you go on vacation. If you want to go and get something, a big house, you just buy it. But it doesn't change your happiness or your fundamental way how you perceive yourself. You know, that for me that has been that was always a great thing to hear.